Hello, people of the internet. It's your boy, Skinny Penis, with another replay, freshly recorded. And today we, after going into Super BBs and lots of other ships, we can also show a bit of Annapolis brain damage. Goes hand in hand with the Super BBs. The reason this car exists the way it does is most likely the Super BBs and the general battleship balancing they have currently. And we're going to look at a smoke-botted gameplay. I mean, yeah, Bison and I are once again on a mission, on a crusade to leaderboard the Annapolis with the highest average damage possible. Afterwards, we're probably not gonna do it ever again. I mean, because it is hilariously boring. Basically, it's a one-man army, and the moment you enable it with a smoker, you deal enough damage for two people at once. So it's not even like a downside to have a gearing just permanently be AFK in front of you for spotting and smoking. I mean, it is proper smoke spotting gameplay that Bison provides here. He could theoretically at least torp. He's not even doing that because we're trying to get the highest amount of damage, highest amount of kills, and also the highest win rate possible. So unless the game is in danger of being jeopardized, he's not gonna deal damage. It's the Bison Speciale, and from time to time we also have the Bison Inshallah, where he just randomly sends it into the enemy team to give them points so I can farm longer. It is all a bit crooked, but it's also like a detriment to how brain damage the player base really is, that him and I are unironically making a fucking sport out of trying to get the highest average feasible and randomly shitting out, I think in yesterday's 7 games. After 7 games I had 386k average in 7 games, 380 something. Goes to show the car is definitely not balanced and should not exist in the way it does. But hey, at least we got some nice replay out of it. Interestingly enough, it's once again one of those where you only have 3 BBs, but you get your highest damage of the night and also an insanely high kill amount. Because let's say, if you have very few battleships, you become even more disgusting in terms of game impact. It's basically the only limiting factor you have is being spotted and getting clicked by these battleships. Especially if they have decent aim or stuff like Patrie from range. It can outrange me, it can point and click me for 20-30k. If I don't care about angling that much, I could also just instantaneously die to him. Or eat so much damage that it's kinda giga poop for me. But yeah, so the games where you have very little BBs and you get smoked like this, you are basically winning the game on your own. So also in this game you will see we just... Basically, I send the Patrie into the depth of hell with a triple perma instant. God bless him for not taking fire prevention. And I will instantaneously one-shot a Shimakaze here. And the Kitakaze on A-cap also dies. So that is basically a super BB AFK in spawn and 2DD is dead. And still this game will be insanely close. So the only way you win these is essentially with the impact of an Annapolis smoked. Because solo on this map, without a smoke, I could also do way less. But as you can see here, the burst nerf is definitely making the ship unplayable. We're totally not instantaneously one-shotting a Shimakaze in the middle of the map. Given though he didn't play survivability expert, so here he would have probably... he may have lived because he actually brought the island, the one on the right, between me and him. But I think if he plays survivability expert, he could have lived. But who the fuck gives a shit? Death Strike First Blood, let's go. The burst interval has been nerfed. The ship is now unplayable, as you can clearly see. Wargaming has no clue how to balance these cars. Now they're reducing the HP on Annapolis and Conde, which will basically have no effect, really. On Conde it will more, because Conde is an open water, worse conceal. Damage farmer, which means HP is kind of your way of sustaining a fight. Annapolis being on rocks most of the times, and the only way you really die is if you get 1-for-1 by BBs and stuff. It won't really have that much impact. It will limit the ability to spec into these outnumbered and top grade commanders, like I did here, because I'm in a smoke all the time. I don't need survivability expert, so I dropped what is it called? ammo switch and survivability expert to get outnumbered and top grade. It's also something that people started running a lot in comp after 3x made that skill extremely, let's say, famous. No, not famous, but like basically everyone copies them or us most of the time, so they started playing the spec, so most people do it now. And yeah, like in a smoke cruiser where you mostly will stay dark in the smoke anyway, and the only issue is once again getting 1-for-1 pushed. Like people suicide on your smoke, outnumbered procs, and if you want to like force run down someone and you go in, it also procs. So then outnumbered is actually extremely strong. I mean, obviously dispersion becomes demented, and the additional speed will basically allow you to turn in, turn out faster for back turrets. It will generally make you accelerate, decelerate faster, so you dodge a bit more. Or if you get pushed on, you can run away faster. It's a strong spec. I mean, this spec will be less, let's say, potent because they reduce the HP even further, which means now I have 56. Afterwards, I would have what, 51, 52, something like that, 52. So survivability expert becomes a bit more interesting because suddenly it becomes like 10% of your HP again. But hey, in the end, it's always the same bullshit. They nerf the ships. Actually, like with Conda, they have turbo brain damage because they nerfed the Conda burst, which doesn't even have that much effect because you still one-shot people, especially if you're mid to close range. Like the dispersion nerf from 40% minus to 20 is like not even doing anything really. And the big problem is like they buffed the base reload by 1 second, like actual fucking turd behavior. Like it really goes to show that the devs or the people that balance, they have no clue what the game is played like. They have no clue about the game, of the ships. Like they're fucking clueless. It's insane. Like they buffed the reload by 1 second straight up, and now they nerfed the HP pool. Like it's what I said in the super ship or super BB videos. That's like the issue with them balancing cruisers. They refuse to give cruisers armor, like against BBs, effective armor against BBs, because Conda and Annapolis armor is insanely troll against other cruisers, but it sucks. It still sucks against battleships. Sure, it gets the troll volleys here and there, but like battleships are basically the only class that can still reliably death strike these cruisers. Other cruisers are the ones that suffer. But they have 30mm armor, so basically you have worthless armor. Most BBs, especially super BBs, all overmatch you, and if they don't overmatch you like a devastation, I mean, they just shit 15k HE double fire into you, ruin all your AA mounts, kill your torpedoes on Conda, and well, it's still not really, let's say, a very skill-based engagement, because either the BB clicks you from any angle, or it loads an ammo type that doesn't care about angle in the first place. And instead of giving them armor or something, they always go the route of giving these cars insane amounts of utility. So like here you have an F key that, by the way, mostly fucks cruisers that fuck up and DDs that fuck up. On both cars, by the way, Conda and Annapolis, so they become DD and cruiser slayers, not battleship slayers. So they get the F key, they get like Raider Hydro, they get heals, sure, it's a gimmick package. The Conda gets the funny reload booster and the, what's it called, a speed boost. So yeah, funny maneuverability, which is also kind of a gimmick, and insane DPM. So that's like the thing. The Annapolis and Conda just shit damage left, right, and center. Like, sure, if you smoke bot it, you can basically go close to 300k average on an Annapolis. Like, it is possible. We are close. We're like on 280 average over like 50 games. Which is insane. Like, most people don't even, they never did 280 damage. Some people didn't even do 300, and we're like making a sport out of making this our average damage on this card because it's so busted. And basically the reason for this is they refuse to give armor, so they get insane DPM. So like, I guess everyone just needs to instantaneously die if they play against an Annapolis or a Conda that has hands. But God forbid these cruisers would actually get armor, which would still be insanely disgusting in good players' hands because they could suddenly angle, but they wouldn't be able to completely murder an entire team by themselves because they have like the most obscene DPM in human existence. Like, I really don't understand the overmatch balance on battleships, the gimmick balance on battleships, and then how they treat cruisers afterwards, where it's like always gimmick and DPM, never armor again. Like, you can see they did it with Napo and Petro. For some reason, they never want to do, like, they never ever want to do this mistake again. So their idea is to never do it again, like never give cruisers deck and side platings and icebreakers at the same time. So like you have shit like Michelangelo, Schroeder, or now Cerberus that get like weird side plating and or deck plating, but never both at the same time, and never an icebreaker on top. So basically you have a Michelangelo has insane sides. I think it has like also decent deck, but then nose and ass are extremely squishy, and the Citadel is not hidden behind 50 layers of irony like on Napoli. Like they just don't even try to make a cruiser with armor right, even though it would be so fucking simple. Like you just don't give a fucking cruiser like Petrol that much like gun effectiveness and or utility. You just keep the armor. Like, what's the problem? Like, nerf the guns into the ground, keep the utility and armor, or nerf the utility into the ground and give it, like, why does, like, for example, Petro, just make it have def AA only. It would change so much already. The problem is the armor and the guns combined with the utility. You have to remove one of them, so you can't remove the armor anymore because this ship model is in the game. You can't really completely rework the guns. You can only nerf the reload. Okay, sure, then leave them. And then just fucking remove the utility. Like, is it that hard? Is it fucking that hard? No, we nerf concealment again. We nerf concealment on a cruiser that sits on a fucking rock the entire time anyways. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? And like now with Annapolis and Conde, we're nerfing survivability. Aha, okay, sure. So like, now you're even more of a glass cannon on both ships, really. I mean, they still are glass cannons against battleships. Like, Super BBs played correctly, or Vermonts played correctly against these cars, is like the only limiting factor. You know, it's also not like copium. I mean, I play competitive, right? I play CBs. I play CBs versus, let's say, 3x. What the fuck do you think is the most limiting factor to an Anna smoke? Well, it's the enemy's fucking BB, if it's a Vermont specifically, or an Ohio. Like, you have to care about the battleship. You don't really give a shit about the rest because it doesn't overmatch you. So you can angle, and since you have higher DPM than anything, you can just go for straight up DPM trades. Like, it's only the battleships that limit these things. So why do we have to nerf the... It's ridiculous because every other ship now still suffers the same against Annapolis. The DPM is the same, the utility is the same, the F key is the same. Also, like, the F key nerf on it is the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Like, what do you think changes if you just reduce the burst interval by like half a second or a second? Like, you saw the shimmer in the beginning. Like, I played it now a lot in the past days, the Annapolis, because I grinded a lot of resources with red boosters on my second account. Like, the F key is basically unchanged. If a cruiser is flat, you just one-shot him, like, or a DD is close to you flat, and it's in the area of you can fuck it with AP burst, well, it's dead. Like, nothing happens. The burst is the same. What the fuck? It's the same for Conde. Like, to be honest, the Conde burst is even, like, there's even upsides to not having like the pinpoint accuracy, because for example against destroyers your shells spread way further out on the ship, which means you probably hit a few shells on unsaturated parts, whereas before you would yeet literally fucking 24 shells into the same spot, which makes it be super saturated. It's like, now it's even better against DDs if you're like 6 km close or something. You spread it a bit more, you do slightly more damage. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. It's really ridiculous, because also you know that the effect of the survivability nerf on it now on the Annapolis and the Conde will just mean that the average player, like specifically the dented players that still think they have to play super cruisers, they will be less effective and they will get worse stats overall. So the super cruisers will stay most likely the same after that, or they won't be nerfed that much further, because the average potatoes losing a bit of HP on their cruisers will have more of an impact than nerfing the DPM, because these motherfuckers don't even know how to use the DPM or get into a position where they could use it effectively anyways. So basically they will just die slightly faster, which will make the overall stats, I guess, worse. And then I guess they, in their pretty world, believe that the cruisers are better now, fine now, more balanced now, and all is good. And it's like, what the fuck, man? If you put the Annapolis into a smoke afterwards again with 4,000 less HP, it's still gonna murder through every single team. There's like basically no difference. Basically no fucking difference. It's insane. Well, yeah. As you can see here, by the way, I'm just murdering the entire fucking team myself. There is barely anything the enemy team can do. We one-shot DDs, we farm the fuck out of super BBs. The DPM is not balanced. The ship itself is not balanced. As you can see here, I mean, he's angled, doing 7k hits. No. And I also have the outnumbered proc, as you can see, because I was relentlessly pushing in spawn, it procs. So I have insane maneuverability now. I get the dispersion. The dispersion is extremely cracked with outnumbered. I mean, it's not magically like F-key Conde types dispersion, the original one, but it's noticeable. It's really noticeable. And with this kind of DPM, yeah, it's a good skill. Sadly, it just doesn't proc that often. It either procs when your team is already, as I always said, like either completely fucked or you're just monging into the enemy team, which probably this skill won't make you survive that much longer either. But yeah, the skill is cracked. Sadly, the requirements are a bit weird still. Doesn't proc that much. I mean, for a 4-point skill, I don't think it should be that hard to proc it, given the fact that battleship skills are that much more potent and broken. If you think about, for example, the improved repair party readiness buffs, like, yeah, I think there's also like a mismatch in the effectiveness of battleship and cruiser skills, like fire prevention versus outnumbered. I do not really know. Also, basically, the cruiser skills are mostly all orientated towards DPM, not really towards survivability. I don't know why that is. As I said, like you could make more skills on cruisers towards survivability. You could make more survivable cruisers that don't have DPM and utility that much. And you could literally discover an entirely new field of, or a new group of cruisers and actually try to make them right. I mean, Napoli is always like the weird one where it's basically the entire player base is hella coping about it. I admit the secondary buffs were way too much, but I never thought that Napoli had there wasn't really a big problem beforehand on Napoli. I think the problem with Napoli goes a bit deeper because the ship itself is not really the issue. It's the issue, as I said, that the counters, the really, really effective counters to Napoli that kind of make it completely neuter the Napoli are just worthless to play. Because of all the utility and DPM cruisers we got, because of the fact that smokes are basically the way to play against battleships or rock hiding cruisers. Or also the gunboats being so disgusting, you just don't really play shimmers or YYs anymore. If you could go to a state where more ships become viable, Napoli would fit in right well because it doesn't have utility, it just brings armor. So yeah, I mean, currently, yeah, Napoli is probably a big issue. I think, though, it's not that the ship itself needs to be neutered into the ground. It's more that the average, or like the overall playing field of what cruisers are viable, what ships, what DDs, what battleships are viable should change a lot. Basically, the entire balance of the three main classes should change. And the other two classes are always outside of the norm, outside of the discussion, because they're demented anyways. Barely any argument to make there how you could implement them properly, because you can't, most of them. They just don't fit. But yeah, this is it. As you can see, we're doing randomly 460k damage. As I said, like 7 games, 386k average. I'm actually confused. Bison and I are pretty much laughing about it at this stage. How the A7 turrets that smokebot Anna and Des Moines combined like 3,000 games or more. It's like if you combine both accounts with Des Moines and Anna games, they smokebotted each other for like 3.5k games on both ships, and they suck ass in it. It's insane. Like Bison and I just smokebotted the Des Moines when submarines were in the game, like they were released and everyone was testing them. We smokebotted Des Moines, did 200k average. Probably now you could do 220, 230. With Annapolis, you can go to nearly 300k average. I think these people don't even reach 200 average. It's insane. It's completely broken. There is no reason this should even be possible. There's no reason Annapolis should exist in the state it does. Neither Conde, but neither fucking 50 other ships. Because it's like we're going into a state of the game where everything one-shots everything. If you make a mistake, you're dead. And that's also why these blowout wins become so apparent. And that's, I think, why they love submarines, because they draw out games and make the average game time last way longer. I guess carriers and subs do that. And yeah, like the surface ships on tier 10 and 11, they start literally one-shotting each other on cooldown. You make a mistake, you're gone. Look at the Wisconsin dispersion. You make a mistake, you're gone. Satsuma Efki, you make a mistake, you're gone. Annapolis Conda Burst, you make a mistake, you're gone. Yamagiri Torp amount, Kunming Torp amount, you make a mistake, you're gone. It's remarkable. Also the Gandhidis, Shermans and Gdansks and Marceaus and Smalans running at each other, or Zorkis. Like if you run into each other, one of you is gonna die most of the time because there's so much DPM. Same by the way for PMO. You make a mistake in a DD, you're gone. So yeah, 4.7k base. I don't really think this should be allowed, this gameplay, honestly. Like, I don't really believe in this being particularly fair and balanced. The Shimmer in the middle instantaneously dying, the PMO getting murdered, the Patrie getting murdered, Rhode Island, everything got murdered. I mean, basically. But also here in this game, something like a Rhode Island, you can just kite for free and kill it. The moment you don't have overmatch against Annapolis, you're just basically fucked. Like something like a Montana can't really effectively 1v1 an Annapolis ever. Like you can deal a lot of damage with Montana because of the nature of the AP. You can punch into superstructure a lot. The problem is if the Ana is full HP, you will never out DPM that. You will never out damage it. It's impossible. 378k alpha. We didn't even deal a lot of fire damage. It's basically just me fucking people. Otherwise, there's not that much to really see. 2 million pot. I mean, we did get low in the end there. We have 92k damage without even having def A. Also pretty nice. Credit income with blue boosters is actually pretty high. I mean, as expected. I mean, it did do 4.7k base. So there's a lot of income. Also, Annapolis and Conda, I would personally not understand why people cry about the reduced super ship credit income and the increased expenses. Because those two ships, if you just put like green boosters on them or something and you play like a human, you will most likely make an even game. These things are so busted. It's beyond me. And yeah, well, as said again, like the route they're taking with nerfing them is just ridiculous. Nerfing survivability, not DPM. Crazy. Actually crazy. To be honest, I would have loved to see them nerf the DPM by 30% at least on both and like increase the HP by 5,000 or so on both. Like that would have been a smart thing. Because you take out this insane burst damage that they have. This I make a mistake in my DD, I get one shot within 15 seconds. Like this kind of stupid gameplay. Obviously these boats are completely ridiculous in the hands of a good player. You know that. You can look into the leaderboards. The percentage-based increase between the average stats of tier 9 to 10 and then 10 to 11. The increase is way higher from 10 to 11 than 9 to 10. They're not a logical conclusion of the tier 10s. They're just outright broken, especially the first released super ships. They're just like insane. Now they're slowing down a bit. Also on the DDs, they slowed down a bit. So like Humphreys or Darlarner are probably super ships done right. Some other super ships that came like Maine they're okay-ish, I guess. You can make an argument for them, but something like a Satsuma shouldn't exist in the way it does. But yeah, that's about it with the Annapolis. Hope you enjoyed me getting smoke botted for an entire game and murdering through a single team myself. Let's see where I end up on after 80 games with Bison together, and catch you in the next video. Have a nice weekend. See you soon.